What would you say to people that are feeling stuck? They don't know how to get themselves into a routine.
Start with something very small. But you don't have to try to do it all at once, and you don't have to make a huge commitment. If you can commit to 20 minutes of something twice a week and just see what comes from it. And most of us have 40 minutes in a week that we can devote to something good for us.
Starting a workout routine can feel overwhelming. Do you ever feel like you don't have enough time, need the right equipment, or just don't know what to do? To have long-term success and meet your health and fitness goals, it's crucial to create personalised workout routines that are tailored to your individual needs, preferences, and life circumstances. Today I'm speaking to Jen Pilotti about health and fitness and the importance of personalisation in exercise routines. Welcome to Move Your Mind, where we uncover why you are holding yourself back from getting the life you want and what to do about it. With the help from high-achieving guests and experts in behavioural science, personal development, and the health and wellness space. Join us if you're ready to move out of your own way toward your ideal self. I'm your host, nickbracks, and I've been working in the health and wellness space for the last 15 years, helping people find direction and gain the courage to take control of their life. My mission is simple: to help you learn everything that I wish I knew, so you can become your ideal self. Lacking guidance, I spent the majority of my youth feeling lost and disempowered, which led to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and substance abuse. Looking back, I didn't have the vocabulary to communicate what I was experiencing. And as a man, I didn't resonate with the emotional language used in traditional therapy. I didn't need to talk about my feelings. I needed tangible solutions to guide me toward building a life I was proud of. If you can relate, then this podcast is for you. In this episode, we discuss how to simplify fitness for long-term health. If you're ready to take action and build a stronger mindset, then keep listening.
Jen, so nice to meet you all the way from Oregon, one of my favourite states in the US. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, super excited to have you on here. So I might just jump straight in by asking you, can you give a bit of a background on the work you do, but also how you sort of came to be where you are now, doing what you're doing? Yeah.
So I teach movement for a living, and I've always been fascinated by the impact of movement on the whole person. As a result, I've studied a lot of psychology, and I've also studied a lot of movement science. And I blend these two things in the work that I do, and I try to keep things playful and create an experience for someone where they feel more in tune with their whole self. So that's who I am, and that's what I'm about. And I got here, again, it was just personal interest. And as I love to learn, and I'm a curious person. So I just kept going down these rabbit holes, and I would study all these different things and then just kind of combine them and try to bring them to the people that I worked with.
And has that always been an area that you were interested in growing up, and it sort of was you naturally sort of found yourself go down this path?
Yes. And it's interesting because I was not a child who came from a situation where I was put into sports or I was athletic or anything of that sort. So, but I always was interested in it. And I always did a lot of kind of self-learning. I remember watching the gymnastics, the Olympics, the gymnastics at the Olympics, and trying handstands and back bends afterwards because I was just curious. I'm like, oh, this looks like fun, or like like a cartwheel or whatever. And then I got really into strength training at some point, and I always ran because for me, I'm high energy, which can lend to a little bit of anxiety as well. And running kind of kept me neutral. So I started doing that when I was 16. Yeah.
I can so relate on that one. Like, I grew up competing in sport and eventually in middle distance running, and I was the same thing, super high energy, didn't know where to put it, and exercise, especially running, was the only way to get rid of even now, the only way I can get rid of all of this extra energy, and anxiety's been my biggest issue. So that's part of how this podcast got called Move Your Mind, because I've just found movement for your mental well-being to be so drastically beneficial?
It makes such a huge difference. And over the years, just working with lots of different people at different stages of their life, one of my clients who's 70 was just telling me her husband said to her, he said, okay, you need to see Jen forever because you're in such a better mood. And
I love that.
it's not necessarily the exercise. There's so much more to it, I think, that allows someone to start to, shift a little bit, maybe their perspective or their mindset or how they're feeling at their point in life. It's just, I don't know, movement can be a really
Yes,
powerful tool for that. So can connection, human connection.
I totally, exactly. I mean, that's the thing, especially in this day and age. I mean, more and more people are disconnected, even though we feel more connected because we're on screens, we're chatting to people, we're by ourselves, and that's not the kind of connection we need. We actually physically need to be around other people, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. I do acting, and I've only just got back into it recently, and I was in a class last night, and I was actually terrified because beforehand, because I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be around other people. What if they judge me? This, that, the other, and you feel nervous in there. But then once you do it, you just feel on such a high, and you're like, oh, it's only after you realize how badly you needed that community sort of connection and to be around other people. We just forget that.
Exactly. And I think that is one of the unfortunate aspects of some of this doing a lot of things on screens is you lose that. And even the in-person energy, you can get a lot from doing coaching online, but there is something to be said when you're physically in a room with someone, how that shifts your
Yeah,
dynamic and how you're expressing yourself.
massively. Massively. And would you say, I guess, as like you're saying there, it's not just the mental health part of it, it's the overall part, and even the lessons that you learn from discipline, from becoming more self-aware, I guess, through doing it and realizing how negative some of your behavior patterns or lack of you know wellness sort of things that you're doing can have on your well-being.
Definitely. And I know, and I've worked with clients again, a lot of my clients I've worked with for a long time, and they'll come to it just because they know they want to get stronger, they know they want to get more flexible, they've got these physical ideas around it, and as they start doing it, they'll notice things like, oh, when I drink a lot the night before before our workouts, I don't feel very good.
Mm.
And then they'll start to make these little shifts, which is really cool to see because it has nothing to do with I'm not suggesting anything, I'm just there to give them opportunities for movement. But they'll come to these things on their own for the reason that you're saying. I think you start to become a little more aware of your physical self, and that can shift some of your behaviors and your patterns.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, because once you start actually physically feeling that benefit, you're going to want more. So I guess is the hardest part bridging that gap of how do you get someone from a lot of the time, even if someone wants to make that change and go and start whatever it is, whether it's working with you or joining a running club or whatever the hell they want to do, people want to do these things but often don't do it, or they might do it as a one-off and then they don't stick to it. How do you sort of what would you say to people that are wanting to do it but they're feeling stuck? They don't know how to take that, how to sort of get themselves into a routine.
Start with something very small. And I have some clients that only see me twice a month, but again, it's super cool because they do lots of other stuff to fill in that they started doing once they started seeing me. They realized I'm not going to get, I feel great when I'm with you, but these benefits aren't going to be long lasting unless I do some other stuff around it. So they've created small changes that started with, okay, I'm going to see you twice a month. So you don't have to try to do it all at once, and you don't have to make a huge commitment. If you can commit to 20 minutes of something twice a week and just see what comes from it. And most of us have 40 minutes in a week that we can devote to something good for us, whatever that is.
I think that's great advice. Yeah, exactly. Not setting. I mean, that's what I've found. I think anyone can really relate to that. Where whenever I've wanted to do something new, you get often overly ambitious, where you might try and do too much, and then you get overwhelmed, and you sort of think, "Oh my god!" And then it becomes a chore, and you're like, "Fuck this! I don't want to do this anymore."
Totally. And whenever you're dealing with something like a physical modality, especially as you get over the age of like 25,
Yeah,
there's more chance of like aches and pains to crop up when you first start the thing, whatever the thing is.
yeah.
So going gung ho all in, I'm going to join a running club and run 5 days a week, even though I haven't run since I was, 18, and that was 20 years ago. That doesn't always go so well.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Might not go well if you go all from 0 to 100.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does my shoulder hurt? I did a bunch of pull-ups yesterday and I haven't done any in years.
So I guess, speaking about age, how important is keeping active and movement for longevity? I think we can fall out of these routines when we get to a certain age. Often people think that maybe there's no point of doing things after a certain age. How important is it that we keep moving?
Oh my goodness, it's more important as you get older than it is when you're younger, I think. I mean, not only are there all kinds of research papers that suggest things like grip strength and your ability to get up the floor without using your hands and your ability to walk a mile at a certain clip. All of these things are related to longevity. So there's that. But then there's the brain component, the benefits of exercise on cognition. If your goal is to stave off dementia, if that runs in your family, then oh my gosh, you kind of need to be all in on exercise. It's just the research on it is striking.
Wow. Is there a certain form of exercise for dementia, or is there a difference between lifting weights to aerobic exercise to yoga or Pilates, or is it just all exercise for that category?
So the bulk of the research is being done on aerobic exercise. This is true in the mental health realm too. So if you look at the benefits of exercise on markers of anxiety or markers of depression, most of the research is being done in the cardiovascular realm. Slowly, more research is starting to kind of come down the pipes that's looking at resistance training or that's looking at skill-based exercise versus just, set reps, a set rep set schema. So slowly these things are starting to come down the pipe. But for right now, the bulk of the research is looking at cardio.
That's interesting. So if someone is suffering from mental health related issues, one of the best things they could do is go for a walk, go for a run, do just anything active, go for a hike.
Exactly. And again, the research doesn't really parse this out, but I do wonder how much the environment affects our mood. I don't know if you've spent a lot of time in a gym, but we just moved. So I've been working out at a gym because my home gym's not set up yet. And the fluorescent lights and certain gyms you walk into and they're a little depressing.
Yeah.
And you're thinking to yourself, I don't know how long I want to be here, right? Do my thing and get out. And I can't imagine getting on a treadmill in a place like this. Now, I live in a beautiful place. So for me, I would much rather walk out my door and be next to the river or be in the hills. But I do wonder how much the environment impacts your response to the exercise as well.
I assume it would be massive because, and as you were saying that, because I know you're in Oregon, I had these very visceral memories of when I was in Eugene, Oregon. I was running through these mountains, and it's just like not just for the benefit of the exercise, just what it does for your mental health from just being around that. I think environment is so important, and I think if people aren't happy with the environment they're in, they're unlikely to stick to it. And I think also, or I guess it's a question for you, do you find with your clients if or with what you've seen, if people are having to sort of travel too far to get to where they need to go to exercise, or it becomes just inconvenient, is that a big barrier as well for not sticking to it?
Absolutely. And since COVID, I have shifted to almost entirely online.
Mm.
And I've had clients tell me, and some people were very resistant to it initially, but the convenience of it, the fact that they don't have to get in the car and drive anywhere, and they
Yeah.
can get a comprehensive workout in an environment that they feel is very safe and they like, presumably because they live there. It's a positive thing. Now, that wouldn't be the case for everybody. You know, some people are in different situations where maybe their home environment is not good. And so getting out and going somewhere would probably be much healthier for them. But to your point, how far they have to travel to get to that place is going to be a barrier.
Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense. So with doing it online, I guess a lot of people might think, oh, well, that means, I'm going to be, I don't want to be exercising through a screen or whatever. But if you think about it, I guess it actually means, hey, I'm going to work with you. So let's create whatever environment is most accessible to you. And then you're helping them to become more self-sustainable. Because if you're saying, well, you've got to just travel to me or come to this location or whatever, to me, that doesn't feel like it's going to be that sustainable. If I think about my own exercise routine, I wouldn't stick to it. I need to be able to know that if I've got a busy day and, I sleep in or whatever it is, I can walk out my door and do something.
Yes. And I think that's been really valuable for people as well. And some of my clients had worked with me for many years. We're talking like 15 or 17 before COVID hit. And when we shifted to online and they realized, oh, I have tools in my room. I had no idea I could get such a solid experience, movement experience, workout, whatever you want to call it, just with these very few things.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Because you don't need much. I think that's the other thing this sort of happened with technology and social media and all of our exposure to different types of fitness modalities is we think we need all of this equipment
Mm.
to feel strong, to feel capable, to get whatever it is that we're looking for. And we don't actually.
Overcomplicating it. As you were saying there, when I first got into doing this podcast, I almost quit before I began because I bought the microphone. I was about to start. Then I started thinking, oh, but, some people have soundproofing and then they've got proper cameras everywhere and they're in a studio. And I got so overwhelmed that the fun went out of it. And then I started thinking, but I want to be able to do my podcast wherever I am. If I'm traveling, I want to still do it. And that doesn't work for me. And you have to just go back to basics and think, okay, what actually works for me? And I think that just applies to everything. And it's so hard in this day and age to strip things back because we've just got overexposure to information and comparison and all that sort of thing. So is that a big part of what what clients get out of, like the benefit they get out of you being able to help them work out what is actually the bare bones that they need to do?
Yes. And I've had many people compliment me on my ability to be very creative with very limited tools and again provide an experience that was very different than what they would expect. I have one client, he works out in his garage and he's thanked me so many times for not requiring a ton of equipment. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't have something heavy to pick up and maybe if you're getting into things, having a bar to hang from can be really useful, but you don't need those things. You can do a lot with like a duffel bag that's filled with books, especially if you're first starting. You can make that duffel bag really heavy. If you've got a lot of books.
You've got enough books. If you don't, I'm sure you can find something else if you don't have books.
Exactly. Go load it with some rocks from your garden or something.
Exactly. Get some bricks. I remember as a kid, I used to use bricks to train with.
Oh, that's super smart.
Out of the backyard, yeah. So, whatever you can find. So what is it mainly Pilates or is it a whole range of different areas? What's the main areas you train people in?
I train in a wide variety of things. I've always been really fascinated by alternative movement. So I do use more traditional lifts, teach somebody how to squat, teach somebody how to split squat. These things, they're basics for a reason. They're good to do on a regular basis. Push-ups are great. And then I like to explore, I would say, almost more calisthenic type movement with a little bit of playfulness to it. Like a lot of my clients learn how to how to do judo rolls because that's useful actually, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And I always try to kind of figure out what people enjoy. And I have some clients I do a lot of ball work with because they enjoy it. I have a client who's in her 80s that loves it. I have another client who's he's in his early 20s. He used to play basketball, so he loves it when I have him start doing ball work. So you can start to, and that's the thing, if you're creative with what you've got and you look at movement from like the spectrum and you're like, okay, I know the person needs a little bit of strength work. This needs to be in there. That's something, again, everybody should sort of have. The cardio they're taking care of on their own. There's a lot I can fill in with to help somebody have a good experience. And that's really what it is. Like, it's an experience of yourself. It's an experience of connecting with yourself, feeling good in your body, feeling capable, which to me is really important.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram at nickbracks. I really appreciate your ongoing support.
Yeah, massively. And I'm sure a big part of the benefit as well is just having someone like yourself to motivate them and keep them accountable, because we all need that.
It's huge. I have a client who she's been with me for 20 years now. And she did tell me, she said, you realize, Jen, I would feel guilty canceling. So I will always show up for my appointments. And she's super strong. She's in her 50s now and she's killing it. Like, the things she can do, it's so cool.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, it's fun, right? Like,
yeah. And must be just rewarding for you to see the impact you're having on these people's lives, that you've been able to help them create something sustainable that's really going to make over time a huge difference.
It's amazing. And I think too it speaks to the value of meeting people where they are, because not everybody wants to feel dead after a workout. Some people do, so you give them that, but not everybody does. Some people want to feel like they did something, and maybe they want to feel a little bit sore the next day, maybe they don't, but they don't want to feel totally wiped. They want to have enough energy to do whatever it is they're doing for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And that looks very different for everybody, actually, depending on what they've got going on in their lives. You know, when you work with people when their spouses are dying, or when their wife is having a child, or they just had a child, you start to work with people at these different phases and you realize it's okay if it looks different today than it did a year ago, and it's going to look even different in a year.
Yeah. And that's life, isn't it? Nothing's
exactly.
stagnant, I guess. Everything's always changing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's okay that your movement practice or whatever it is that you're doing for your self-care, it's okay that does too.
Yeah. How important are the other elements? I mean, you touched on it before, where when people sort of get into, first start exercising or movement, they'll be aware of other areas. So sleep,
yes,
nutrition, all of these other areas, how important are they as well?
They're huge. I mean, you could just do the exercise piece and have really horrible sleep and have really horrible nutrition. And yes, you're doing something positive for yourself, but are you going to feel great? No. So if your goal is to feel good, if that is your goal, if you're like, I just want to feel as best as I can at this stage in my life, then prioritizing some of those other areas. And it doesn't mean that you have to do anything crazy with the nutrition, but it's just, making the choice. I could have a banana or I could have a chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah.
What's going to make me feel better? I don't know. Maybe the chocolate chip cookie will. Sometimes the chocolate chip cookie absolutely does. But if it's always the chocolate chip cookie, well...
maybe for instant gratification, the chocolate chip cookie, but probably not.
Exactly, right?
Not over time, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things to get people to have discipline around, because, and I think probably more than ever now, because we're getting conditioned to be able to get that dopamine hit at our beck and call. Whether it's if someone's wanting to meet someone, they can jump on a dating app, find people from all over the world. If someone wants to, distract themselves and they're stressed, they can jump on their phone and, find endless entertainment. And, we can order food from, without leaving the house. So I guess it's like, how do you break that? And just, with all of, again, that same thing you were talking about, it's the same, another version of that overwhelm of too much choice. How do you make the good choices? Would that be, again, a thing that having, someone like you as a coach, they can, get benefit from?
We certainly can. I don't do nutrition coaching. I've always felt that people who specialize in nutrition should those are the experts you should seek out. But if people are looking for just behavior change, I have had clients run things by me like, hey, I got my blood work back. I know I need to change something because my cholesterol is high. I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And I'll tell them if I think it's too big of a change or if I think it's not going to make enough of an impact.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing I think that's really important whenever you're looking at anything related to the health realm is it has to come from within you. If you've got somebody telling you you have to do this X, Y, and Z, your chances of continuing it are very slim. So thinking about these things, talking them out with somebody, those are wonderful benefits. I think that working with a coach or having, an interested party who knows something about the topic can be really helpful.
Yeah, and so less is more a lot of the time, I guess, when you're trying to build these long-term changes.
Yes. Every once in a while you hear the crazy story where someone's like, I quit drinking, I cut out sugar, I went vegan, I did it all a year ago, and I'm in a totally different place. There are some people that can do that. I'm not discounting that. Most of us don't have the bandwidth because it takes a lot of energy, a lot of mental energy to make a change. So much.
Yeah.
So, you've got other things taking your mental energy. You've got your family, you've got your work, you've got, whatever your life looks like. You've got that taking your mental energy too. So you've only got so much of it. So you got to kind of figure out where you want to put it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And if you can just focus on one small part at a time, you might actually, over, a 5-year period, get to where that person got that went all in and went crazy on it. But yeah, like you're saying, we only have so much time and energy.
Exactly.
So yeah, a big portion of our listener base are men, that are sort of wanting to make that change, in whatever area that are feeling stuck. What would you say to anyone listening that is feeling a bit stuck and not knowing, what to do?
I'd say write out a list of your priorities. So you're feeling stuck and you're not sure what you want to do. What do you want to change in your life right now? Write out your top 5. And once you write them out, kind of look at them, say, okay, are these really my top 5? Are they in the order I would go with? And whatever number, and if so, great. If not, kind of change them around until you've got that list the way you'd like it. Look at number 1. Ignore numbers 2 through 5, and ask yourself, what can I do right now that will get me closer to number 1?
I love that.
And just start there. And once you've got number 1 taken care of, come back, look at number 2.
Yeah, great advice. I think that's such a simple and powerful way to sort of remove a lot of that overwhelm when you're making those steps, because then you're actually aware of them. You've got it down on paper, but you can actually, you're making an active choice, but I'm only doing this one thing first, and then I can come back and do the next one. So yeah, I think that's really, really great way to look at it. I love that.
Thank you. And to your point, paper is important. I think we all kind of know that. But yes, if you write something down on paper, it feels way more tangible than writing it in your notes in your note app.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And what about the sort of the mindset benefit? So in terms of, for me, exercise, like I meditate, but I find I actually get more, if I do intense exercise, I find that does more for me in terms of meditation than, sitting and trying to meditate, which I do get a bit of benefit, but I think people get often, again, overwhelmed or maybe confused thinking, okay, I want to exercise, but also, meditation's so good for me. I need to do that as well. Can we simplify that by just being like, meditation can be whatever gets your mind to be just still, in the moment. And if you get that from movement, then maybe that's enough. You can kill two birds at once. Get your mind, reset your mind and get a workout.
Yes. It's funny. I lecture to high-ranking Navy officials on mindfulness. And this is one of the things I'm always trying to get across to these men and women because they are busy and they're thinking meditation is one more thing I have to add to my life. If you don't have time to add it to your life, you can get it a different way. 100%, just like you're saying. If you get it from going for a run, if that quiets everything down and gives you an opportunity to focus, great. If learning something new, I do aerial silks and I do pole. And it's interesting because in that community, I've talked to several people who have attention deficit disorder, and they say that the beauty of those activities is they're a little bit dangerous. So they quiet their mind down because they have to focus on what they're doing. So that's another one. Same thing with lifting a heavy weight, actually. I don't know, when you pick up a barbell and you're doing heavy deadlifts, your brain goes kind of quiet. It's just you and the task that you're doing. You're not really thinking about anything else. So that was a long answer. But yes, you can absolutely get the benefits of meditation from movement.
I love that. No, I think that's great. And I mean, I got diagnosed with ADHD much later in life, actually, and that answered a lot of questions for me. But it's an area that I'm trying to sort of educate more people in, or educate myself and other people in. What can we do for that? Because I think exercise is such a big one. So you're saying when there's a bit of that danger because that forces you to be so present, which makes a lot of sense. And what were you saying? The example was pool. You were saying, or for
pole, like a pole, like pole dancing. So I do pole and
okay.
I do
Yes.
aerial silks. And
Yep.
both
Yep.
of those you're doing like drops and tumbling
You
and
have to be so in the moment, so present to do it. Yeah.
you can't think about anything else. You really can't because, you're either hurling your body through the air and hoping that silks catch you and you did your wrap right, or you're
Yeah.
trying to make sure you don't slip off this vertical pole,
That's great. No, I think, I really like that because I think that's the thing. It's become too complicated now where
Yeah.
maybe, 20 years ago or 15 years ago, people that were naturally doing these things that just made them feel good, that they enjoyed, they didn't really think, oh, this is giving me meditation or mindfulness. It's just, I feel good. So it did give them that. But now because we're aware of it, we're thinking, oh, we need to add this as well and all those things where it's actually not true. Yeah.
Exactly. And as I said, there's only so much time in a day.
Yeah.
And I don't think we honor that enough. We get all these shoulds. We should do this. We should do this. We should do this. We should do this. And then you end up not doing any of it because you're like, but I've got all these other things I have to do too. And these are my responsibilities. So how do I take care of these shoulds?
Exactly. Simplicity is the way to go. No, I love all of that. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. We finished with 5 closing questions. So before I go into those, what do you do in your own day-to-day life to look after your own mental health and well-being?
So I do move a lot. Like this morning I ran, I went to the gym.
Yeah.
I wrote, and then I write. I like to write quite a lot. And for me, it just helps me direct my thoughts a little bit. So those are the 3 things that I probably prioritize. And then I also prioritize sleep.
Yeah. That's the biggest one I'm working on at the moment because I've just destroyed my sleep routine because I think I was saying to you before we recorded, I'm sort of between time zones while I'm in the US, and it's just it's the biggest one I want to fix this year because I can really feel how much it has had a negative impact on, just your mental well-being, energy levels, everything. It's just, it's so important.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so these final questions, these can be sort of shorter answers, whatever comes to mind for you. The first one is, what's your best childhood memory that comes to mind?
Ooh, best childhood memory. Ooh.
Or one of them.
I'm sure people usually have one right off the top of their head. Actually, there was this. I wrote this thing when I was in 5th grade that won an award. And it wasn't the act of it winning the award that was my best childhood memory. It was just being with all those really, really cool people when I was in the room receiving the award. It was really fun.
That's great. I love that. What do you think's currently the biggest burden on mental health in society?
Oh, how easily accessible we are.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, that's a big one.
Yeah.
What's your personal definition of happiness?
Being able to enjoy the moment, whatever the moment is.
That's a great one. I love the simplicity of that, and that's so true, because we're always looking for, the next thing. I can just relax and enjoy myself when blah, 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 but that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you could go back and say one message to your 18-year-old self, what would you say?
Oh, that's all going to be okay.
Yeah. Yes.
That age is so hard.
Yeah. A final one. What are you most proud of?
Ooh, I'm most proud of the work that I do with my clients, actually. I love it. It's just very rewarding.
Yeah. I can imagine. Well, you're changing people's lives. I mean, there's not really much you can do that's more rewarding than, that kind of work. So I think it's fantastic. We need more people like you out there in the world, especially in this day and age. And yeah, I've really taken a lot out of, what you've shared with me today. So thank you for making the time. And final thing, actually,
Yes.
Where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about you?
My website is my name, JennPilotti.com, or you can find me on Instagram. Those are the two places I'm kind of most active.
Easy. Okay, well, that will be in the show notes. So anyone listening, all you have to do is go to the show notes and click on the links. And Jen, thank you so much again for making the time.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
Thank you, Jen Pilotti, for joining me today and offering your insights. And thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to leave a comment or send a DM. Your feedback's always appreciated. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much.